Good day, everyone. I am Victor, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, which is Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act for Students. Everything you wanted to know but were afraid to ask. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Hope and Kirsch. Hope and Kirsch, MAED Square, is a licensed special education teacher and 25 plus year litigation attorney. Ms. Kirsch was a special education teacher and special education coordinator in the New York City public schools for 18 years. She is a frequent speaker nationally and locally on education law. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Hope.
Thank you. We're going to be talking today about 504s, everything you want to know but were afraid to ask. And this is a seminar that is for parents, schools, related professionals, advocates, and it is an introductory course, but it will also delve into some more discrete areas. So what is a 504? So Section 504, 504 refers to Section 504. 504, when we use the term 504, it refers to Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 as amended. It is a law that affects individuals with disabilities. In the school setting, it prohibits discrimination based on disability in any school program or school activity that is operated by recipients of federal funds. 504 is one of 3 federal laws that address the obligations of public schools and charter schools are public schools, to meet the needs of students with disabilities. So to go more into the weeds with this, the IDEA is a law that ensures services to children with disabilities throughout the United States. So what's the difference between the Americans with Disability Act, ADA, and 504? So these are examples of discrimination that we mentioned. So let's look at the difference between IDEA and 504. So IDEA is an education law. 504 is a civil rights law. The difference between an IEP and a 504 plan. Okay, so what are the laws regarding 504s? So this is what it looks like. You have the United States Code, and then you have the implementing regulation. We also look at policy guidance. These are not controlling. Okay, they don't have precedential value, but schools often ask for guidance in interpreting the federal regulations. Okay, we'll talk now about 504 and the ADA. So this is what the Americans with Disability Act looks like. Title II of the ADA is Equal Opportunity for Individuals with Disabilities. So a word about Title III. This is for public accommodations and services operated by private entities. Here, word 3 about charter schools. They are public. Title III as it applies to charter schools. Okay, so who is entitled to 504? Now we're going to talk about eligibility. How does a student become eligible? How do they qualify for an IEP? Well, first of all, these are some of the major life activities. This is not an exclusive list. And major life functions include, but are not limited to, your immune system, bowel, bladder, brain, neurological function, think ADHD. What does substantially limits mean? The threshold issue of whether an impairment substantially limits. What does record of impairment mean? An individual has a record of impairment if he or she has a history of mental or physical impairment. What is regarded as having such an impairment mean? Okay, mitigating measures. So let's compare the eligibility for a 504 versus for an IEP. So comparing the evaluation for finding a child eligible for an IEP or 504, caveat for technically eligible students. It is possible for a student to be eligible under Section 504 and not require either the IEP or 504 plan. So what does a 504 accommodation plan look like? Let's compare it to an IEP. So let's compare the team component. So in comparing the IEP to a 504 plan, and this is a sample accommodation plan. And so let's discuss what kind of accommodations there are. So what's the difference between modifications / specially designed instruction, SDI, and accommodations? So written plan, how often is a plan developed? Okay, procedural safeguards. So there are procedural safeguards under the IEP. Parents get a booklet that's about 28, 30 pages. And these are generally the procedural safeguards. couple of miscellaneous things. Discipline I mentioned at the very beginning of this. Okay, so tips. So parents should ask for a draft of the 504 plan in advance. Parents should record the meeting if allowed. You want to see records in advance and bring someone just because it is often emotional. So what to do about disputes? What do we do about dispute resolution? You get our, arguments. And that is it for the presentation. Thank you. And so the bottom line is that always communicate with the school. If you have a desire for your child to have an IEP or a 504, there's got to be a reason for it. So try to articulate that reason. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
That's
Hope. So that does conclude the session for today. And all the participants, you may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead.
it.
Thank you.